Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're going to be talking about AI. Well, more specifically, what happened when some researchers decided to give ChatGPT a Rorschach test,
Oh, wow.
which is fascinating. For those who don't know, it's those ink blot images
Yeah.
that some psychologists use to try to understand personality and mental state.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a test that's been used for years, pretty famous, but also pretty controversial.
Yeah, definitely.
Because some psychologists think it's, not very reliable, but others still use it even today in legal contexts and such.
It's true. It's definitely a fascinating experiment
Yeah.
because the Rorschach test really tries to get at something that's very human, right? Which is pareidolia.
Oh, interesting.
This tendency that we have to see these patterns in random stimuli.
Yeah, like seeing faces in the clouds.
Exactly. Or like animals in ink blots.
Totally. And it's so interesting because, it is driven by our brains trying to find meaning,
Yes.
even when there might not be any.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting about it is that whatever meaning we do find is totally unique to us.
Right.
Like shaped by our own experiences, fears, desires, all these things that AI, as far as we know,
Right.
doesn't have.
Right, exactly. Okay, so that's what makes this so interesting, right? We're taking this test that's designed to explore, the depths of human subjectivity and giving it to a machine that's based on logic and algorithms. So
Yeah.
what happened? So I was reading that they showed ChatGPT 5 classic Rorschach images.
Oh.
And at first it just gave a textbook definition of the test itself,
Oh, really?
which I guess
I think ChatGPT.
yeah, just spitting out information, right?
Right.
But then when they pressed it
Yeah.
to actually interpret the ink blots,
And what did it say?
well, it started with really generic symmetrical interpretations like, this looks like two animals facing each other.
Okay, yeah. I mean, anyone could say that
Right, exactly.
by just looking at the shape.
Exactly. But then when they really pushed it for specifics, ChatGPT actually said one of the ink blots looked like a bat or a moth.
Interesting. Not exactly profound or anything, but I mean, I guess it gives us a little bit of a clue as to how it's approaching the task, right?
So is it actually thinking about these images the way a person would?
Well, not really. It's important to remember that ChatGPT and other large language models, or LLMs,
Mm-hmm.
don't actually think in the way that we do. Think of it this way.
Mhm.
An LLM is trained on massive amounts of data, like text and code.
Okay.
So when it sees an ink blot, it's not drawing on personal experiences or emotions the way that, a human would.
Right.
It's basically searching through its vast database
Got it.
for patterns that match that shape,
Right.
and then it spits out the most statistically probable answer.
So if it says an ink blot looks like a bat, it's because it's been trained on a ton of images and descriptions of bats,
Exactly.
not because it's experiencing the image in the same way we do.
Precisely. It's more like advanced pattern recognition than genuine understanding,
Oh, okay.
And this is actually where the insights from the experts that you mentioned in the intro really come in.
Right, yeah. Like Cohn Decker, the software developer,
Mhm.
said that, ChatGPT is basically telling you what it knows about the test,
Yeah,
but not actually engaging with it on any deeper level.
exactly. And, psychology instructor Shangel Ghosh
Yes.
made a really similar point that, just because ChatGPT's responses might sound human-like,
Right.
it doesn't mean that it's actually, thinking or feeling. It's
Right.
simply drawing from this, massive pool of online data.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Psychologist Barbara Santini
Mhm.
argues that, if AI's responses to the Rorschach test seem similar to humans,
Right.
it's not because the AI understands the image the same way that we do.
Yeah.
It's because its training data
Right.
is based on our visual culture.
Is mimicking us, not actually seeing the world in the way that we do.
That's kind of unsettling, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
If AI starts to see the world like us, is it really learning or just reflecting our own biases and patterns back at us?
It's a really good question.
Mm.
It's a question worth considering.
Yeah.
And there's actually another detail about this experiment that I think really highlights the difference between human and AI perception,
Okay.
which is that, if you refresh ChatGPT, its interpretation of the same ink blot can actually change.
Duh.
Yeah. It might go from seeing, a butterfly to a bear to something completely different.
That's so bizarre. I feel like when most people see a Rorschach image, they kind of stick with their initial interpretation, even if it's out there.
Right. Because our responses are informed by our experiences, by our emotions, by, those really deeply ingrained patterns of thinking that we were talking about.
Right, right.
But AI, is constantly drawing from and recombining the information in its data set.
It's like its perception is a lot more fluid and less anchored to one specific perspective, but does that make it more objective or just, like, different?
That's a great question, and it leads us to another fascinating aspect of this study. It really does make you wonder, like, how far can AI actually go?
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to, like, really understanding the world
Right.
the way that we do.
Because, like, they're so good at, like, recognizing patterns and making connections
Right.
in this massive amount of data.
Yeah, they're really good at that.
But humans don't just identify those patterns.
We give them meaning.
Right.
We add emotional resonance.
Yes, and like our own personal significance.
Exactly.
Like AI could probably tell me all the technical details about a famous painting.
Right.
But could it really understand why that piece of art moves people?
Right, to really get, like, why it's powerful or beautiful.
Or think about humor.
Yes.
Like AI can probably analyze a joke,
Yeah.
break it down into its parts, like set up punchline timing.
Mm-hmm.
But will it ever really get like why it's funny?
Exactly.
Okay.
That shared human experience.
Exactly.
That makes a joke work.
So are we saying that like AI will never understand the human psyche?
I mean, it's a tough question because the human mind is so complex.
Right. Like we're still figuring it out ourselves.
Exactly. Like we're trying to map this huge uncharted territory.
Yeah.
And AI is this like really powerful new tool that we're using to do it. But like we're still learning how to use that tool.
Yeah.
And we're also kind of discovering that like this territory of the human mind is way more mysterious and multifaceted than we ever thought it was.
And I feel like this whole Rorschach experiment is kind of a perfect example of that.
Totally, because we're giving this AI a tool that's designed to like probe the depths of human subjectivity.
Right.
But by doing that, we're not just learning about AI, we're also learning about ourselves.
It's true, like we're holding up a mesh to ourselves.
Right.
But the mirror this time is made of like algorithms and data.
Exactly. And what we see looking back is like familiar and strange at the same time.
It is kind of cool, though, to think that we can actually create these machines that can mimic human thought processes.
Yeah, even if it's just on this like surface level.
Right.
But I think it also forces us to really confront some pretty deep questions.
Yeah.
About what it actually means to be human.
It's true.
Like if AI can learn to think like us and feel like us
and
create like us,
right.
Does that diminish our own uniqueness?
Whoa, that's a really big question. And I don't know if there is like an easy answer to that.
I don't know if there is either. But, I think the point of these deep dives is that we explore these big questions and these unknown things and challenge our assumptions.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think the most important thing isn't finding the answers.
Okay.
But it's asking the right questions.
That's a really good point. And actually, this whole Rorschach thing has kind of brought up one for me.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Well, if AI can't really grasp, that symbolic meaning and that emotional resonance that we find in these abstract shapes, does that mean that those qualities are actually even more essential to what makes us human?
That's a great point. It really does make you wonder, maybe our capacity for pareidolia, for seeing meaning and emotion, even in randomness, speaks to just this like incredible depth and complexity of the human mind.
Because it's our ability to like project our inner world onto these blank canvases and find beauty and significance in like even mundane things that sets us apart.
Right. It's like almost our imperfections.
Yeah.
And our subjective interpretations are sometimes messy emotions,
Yeah.
That's our strength.
Okay.
Than compared to the cold logic of AI.
So maybe our flaws are what make us unique.
It's a really thought-provoking idea.
It is.
It seems like in this world that's increasingly driven by algorithms and AI, our messy and emotional and subjective humanity might be our most valuable asset after all.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? Like, can AI ever really see the world the way we do?
Yeah, like experience that awe when you look up at a starry night.
Right.
Or like be moved by a piece of music,
Exactly.
It's like there's this certain poetry to the human experience that might just always be beyond the reach of algorithms,
And maybe that's okay.
Yeah, maybe some things are better left to the realm of human experience.
Right, like maybe it's those very limitations that define what makes us human.
Exactly.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to kind of turn it over to you, the listener. What are your thoughts on all of this? Does AI's, struggle to really understand those deeper aspects of the Rorschach test make you feel more confident in, like, the uniqueness of the human mind?
That's a good question.
Or does it, leave you with even more questions about the future of intelligence, both artificial and our own?
Here's something to ponder as you go about your day. If we kind of accept that, at least for now, AI can't truly see the world, with the same depth of emotion and subjective experiences we do.
Right.
What does that tell us about the nature of consciousness itself?
Oh.
Like, is it something that can be replicated in code?
Right.
Or is it something fundamentally different, something that's, uniquely human?
That's a great question to leave everyone with. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back soon with another thought-provoking topic that will hopefully make you question everything you thought you knew. See you next time.